Hey guys, welcome to the Environmental Learning Center. Time to get ready for probably what will be your favorite trip to the Environmental Learning Center. It's called Lagoon Days. The reason it's called Lagoon Days is because it's an entire day focused exclusively on the lagoon. You're going to be at the ELC from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon, learning about the lagoon the entire time. So today, this video is going to help you get ready. I'm Miss Heather, this is Miss Rosemary, and Miss Sarah, and the three of us are going to kind of give you a little introduction to each of the 6 stations that you'll be doing during the day, and we'll also help you get prepared. The theme for Lagoon Days is interconnections. Maybe that's a word you've never heard of before, but if you kind of break it down into its parts, you might be able to guess at its meaning. For example, do you know what connections means? All right, for example, my 2 hands are connected. Well, interconnection implies lots of different hands. So interconnections is how all of the parts of the Indian River Lagoon come together and help the system function as a healthy ecosystem. To help you remember this theme, interconnections, throughout the day you're going to see these puzzle pieces. And that's how a good way to remember interconnections. Just like a puzzle, if you don't have all of the pieces of your environment, you're not going to have that complete healthy picture. So there are a few things you're going to need to do to prepare for your Lagoon Days field trip. It's an intense day, and it's a long day, and you will be outside that entire time. We will all be outside from 10 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. So you're gonna need lots of energy. Get a really good night's sleep the night before. Even if you're normally a night owl, get to bed early the evening before your field trip. The day of your field trip, eat a really good breakfast. Even if you normally skip breakfast, don't skip breakfast on the day of your ELC field trip. What to wear? It's pretty easy. Don't wear anything brand new that you'd be terribly upset if it got wet and dirty, because everyone is going to get wet and dirty. Teachers, students, chaperone, even us and our volunteers, everyone's going to get wet and dirty. So wear clothing that still adheres to your school dress code policy, but don't wear brand new clothing. So for example, no tank tops, no really short shorts. It's going to be warm and sunny, so you need to be ready for that. You can wear baggies if you like, or some quick dry shorts like these, but otherwise just use your common sense. As far as footwear goes, this gets a little bit tricky. Really, the best thing? Old sneakers. You can wear them right into the water, they tie on your shoes, no big deal. There are a few other shoes we will accept. If you have dive booties, these are acceptable. If you don't have dive booties, don't worry about it. Old sneakers are just fine. There's some really rugged water shoes out there. These are really good. They tie really tightly, closed-toed. These are fine, but if you don't have these, that's okay too. Old sneakers are really the best. The one thing that's not okay, actually there's 2 things that's not okay. First of all, don't wear Crocs. The mud monster will get them, fall right off your feet. They are not acceptable. And if you can do this with your shoes, they're not acceptable either. So we don't want to see any of these flimsy things. So no flip-flops, none of these kind of water shoes that are intended maybe for the beach or a swimming pool. Just don't wear these to the ELC. Again, the best thing, old sneakers. You can even throw them in the washing machine when you get done at the ELC. You also need to have sunglasses and a hat, and even sunscreen, because you are really going to be outside the entire time. So you need to be sun safe and protect yourself. And teachers, there are some special ways that you need to prepare as well. First of all, please go online to our website, which is just discoverelc.org, and definitely read that teacher packet. It'll help you get organized for your day. There's so many extra details that you need to take into consideration. One really important thing though is we do expect for you and your chaperones to be in the water while we're doing all of those activities. So about the shoes, the same thing applies for you guys too. Please be prepared. Have just some old sneakers that you can wear into the water. Make sure your chaperones also have old sneakers that they can wear into the water. Safety really is our #1 priority here at the ELC, and we can only accomplish that with your help. As far as the kids having water bottles, not really necessary. We're gonna have drinking water at every single station, so the fewer things that your students have with them during the day, really the better. We'll have all kinds of information for you about how to divide up your classes and which stations they'll be going to first in that teacher packet. So the way Lagoon Days works, we have 6 stations, and every single student is gonna get to do every single one of those stations. You just might do them at a different time than perhaps some of the other kids in your school, but you'll get to do all 6 of them. Here we are at the Florida History Station. Now the way this station works, we're gonna start off 65 million years ago. We're gonna walk forward in time through our living timeline trail and until the present day, which will end with a really cool fossil dig. Now, why would we start off 65 million years ago? Anybody know what was the significant event that happened 65 million years ago? Has something to do with the meteor. That's right, a meteor hit the planet and sent everything into total chaos, and the dinosaurs went extinct. Now, get this, dinosaurs never lived in Florida. They never had the opportunity to live in Florida. When they were alive roaming the earth, Florida was totally underwater. So there may have been some that were swimming over top of Florida, but they never had the chance to live here at all. So in that fossil dig, you're definitely not going to be finding any dinosaur fossils, that's for sure. So we'll start off 65 million years, we'll walk to the present day. Lots of interesting artifacts along the way, like this dugout canoe and some of these shell tools as well. You're gonna learn all about the kind of people that were living here, the kind of animals that were living here in the past, all up until present day. And remember, each station has a puzzle piece, and that's to help you remember the theme of the day. Do you remember what the theme of the day is? I just said it. Oh yeah, interconnections. So the theme is interconnections, how all parts of the Indian River Lagoon fit together. And the history of this area is definitely a part of the Indian River Lagoon.
All right, you'll definitely be needing your lunch when you come out to the ELC for Lagoon Days. Either make sure you check with your teacher to get a school lunch or pack a lunch. Now when you pack your lunch, try to think about packing a less trash lunch or a waste-free lunch. We're going to challenge each school and we're going to weigh your trash at the end of the day and see which class has the least amount of trash. So when you pack your lunch, think about using a reusable bag, a reusable lunchbox. Put your drink in a reusable container. That can go home and washed and reused. Your sandwich or crackers and cheese, also reusable container. Take it home, wash, reuse. You have your snack, your chips, your grapes, same thing, wash, reuse. Instead of a cloth napkin that just has to go in the trash, you can bring a bandana or a cloth napkin, even real silverware if you're going to need for some of your items. Because all these items at the end of lunch can be packed up back in your lunchbox, zipped up, taken back home. Now, if you don't have those kind of items or you have a school lunch, not to worry because we're going to have 4 bins as well. We're going to have a compost bin for leftover producers. Do you remember that word from 3rd grade? Fruits and vegetables. We also have a recycle bin for items like milk cartons, plastic bottles, aluminum foil, soda cans. We have a paper recycling bin for the water cups. And then we also have a trash container. That's the one we want to use least. But that means we also have to make sure that we don't throw trash into these other items. So when you're finished with your lunch, your leftovers have to go in these items. And if you can use one of the other items before the trash, that's great. So maybe you have an apple. After you're done with your apple, or you have carrots or banana peel, those go in the compost bin. Now you might have a soda can, tea can, those types of cans, they can be recycled. If you have something like these, the Kool-Aid jammers or the lemonades, even though these look like aluminum, these are coated in wax. So when you're done with these, especially these little straw wrappers, those have to go in the trash. If you have a container like yogurt, pudding, fruit cups, if you look on the bottom, you'll see a triangle with a number. Any plastic item like this that's harder, that has a number 1 through 7, can be recycled when it's empty. Please make sure that the food is out of there before you put it in the recycle bin. So these items, they go in there. Water bottles, they also go in there. Something else that can be recycled, aluminum foil. If you wrap your sandwich, your snacks in the aluminum foil that comes from home, that can be recycled. But this type of aluminum, the wrappers for sandwiches, granola bars, potato chips, they have to go in the trash when you're done eating the food. Ziploc bags, you can either take them home, wash them, reuse them. If not, they need to go in the trash. And if you have a school lunch in a paper bag, or your lunch is packed in a paper bag, guess what? That can go in a recycle bin with the paper products, just like if you have a Lunchable box. So think about making less trash. Make sure you bring enough food to eat so you're going to get enough energy, because after lunch you're still going to have 3 stations. So you want to have enough food, and also think about making less trash, because at the end, as I said, we're going to weigh your trash and see which class can have the least amount of trash. We hope that you all can do it to help make our environment healthier and happier for all the animals.
This is probably everybody's favorite station, the canoeing station. This is the station where we have the least amount of factual information to tell you, but it's actually the station where you need to listen the best. And if I don't feel you're listening, I'm not obligated to let you go in a canoe. So all eyes on me. What we're going to do when you get down to the canoe dock, we will show you up here on dry land how to use a paddle. And then once we feel like you've kind of gotten the hang of that, we'll show you a quick demonstration of 2 adults in a canoe. And then finally, we're going to let you guys get in a canoe without any adults. Now, the one thing I need to say, just to make sure I say it, if the weather's really bad, we can't let you go canoeing. If it gets super windy, it's just not safe, guys. So keep that in mind, and we'll just all pray for really nice weather on your field trip day. But this is how you use a paddle. Your hand goes on top of the T. Believe it or not, this is how you kind of get your power. Your next hand is going to come diagonally across your body till you reach that paddle, and then your paddle goes over to the side. When you paddle, you put the blade in front. This is called the blade. So blade in front, and it's almost like you're pulling on the water. So when I paddle like this on my left side, it's actually going to start turning the boat to the right. And the opposite holds true. Hand on the T. This hand comes diagonally across my body, paddle over to the right, and when I pull the water on the right, my boat's actually going to start going to the left. Now, you don't need to remember all that right now, but if you can take a minute to just kind of use an imaginary paddle and practice on both sides, you'll kind of get the feel for how we're going to do it on your field trip day. Now, there's some other safety things to consider while you're out on the canoe dock as well. And I'm going to have Miss Rosemary and Miss Sarah show you. We all have to wear a PFD, known as a personal flotation device, or also known as a life jacket. So everybody must wear a life jacket. So they're going to put those life jackets on, and we can have some adults help you guys. And there are 3 buckles. You must have all 3 of the buckles fastened before I'm even going to let you come down onto the loading platform. But now that they're all fastened up and ready to go, we're going to head down to the platform and show you how to get in a canoe. Okay guys, so none of the students are allowed down on this platform until an adult is down here and the students both have their life jackets on. The reason, we're going to show you the right way to get into one of these canoes. The adult will give the sign when it's time to come down. Come on down, Miss Sarah. And the adult's going to hold the boat by the side. The side of the boat is called the gunnel. Now I want you to watch Miss Sarah also. I know it's kind of hard with me holding this canoe. Miss Sarah's going to crouch down. She reaches across with her outside hand, puts one foot directly in the center of the boat, and then sits. She does it so fast, she does it quicker than I can say it. It's all one fluid motion. Notice how Miss Sarah never actually stood up in the canoe, and neither will you. Once she gets situated, we'll hand her the paddle. We always load the front of the canoe first. And now I'm going to get this canoe ready for Miss Rosemary. She does the same thing. She crouches down one foot at a time with her hand across the boat, and she has a seat, and she's going to wait for me to hand her her paddle. And these girls are ready to start canoeing. Wow, what a beautiful day out here on the Indian River Lagoon. You'll notice that this canoe bay is really nice and shallow, perfectly safe place to go canoeing during Lagoon Days. Now, Miss Rosemary and Miss Sarah are going to demonstrate how to properly canoe. So Miss Rosemary and Sarah are going to make a turn to the right by both paddling on the left, and you'll notice it's a nice slow turn. They put their paddles in front, and their canoe slowly starts to turn to the left. This is not a car, so it's not a fast move at all. When they want to stop their boat, they dig their blades into the water. Please notice their blades do not go down into the seagrass. When they want to back up, they do the exact opposite. They put their paddles behind them and they push the water instead of pulling the water. And now let's just go nice and straight. If you ladies wouldn't mind just to go right by us, what's going to happen is one person paddles on one side, one person paddles on the other, and they're just going to come right beside us here and show you how to perfectly paddle. Notice they both put their paddles in front of them, and they're really pulling on that water, and that's how they get that nice forward momentum. Now they need to watch out for those mangrove trees. They're not going to want to bump into them. So if they get too close, they can either turn or stop their boat. See how easy that was, and see how much fun it's going to be? I know you can't wait, and I know you're going to be awesome listeners. One question I always get is, Miss Heather, what happens if our boat tips? Well, let me tell you what, you're out of here. Finito. No more canoeing for you if your boat tips. If you follow my directions, chances of you tipping are almost 0 to none. Now I do say almost because I suppose there could be some very strange set of circumstances in which somebody flips. But usually if students flip their boats, it's because they weren't paying attention to my directions and they were horse playing out there on the canoeing. Now we want you to have fun. This is such a cool part of the day, but we need you to stay safe. So there will be no roughhousing and no tipping the canoes.
Do you remember our theme of the day? That's right, interconnections. Remember, that's how all of the plants and animals in the Indian River Lagoon fit together like pieces of a puzzle. Oh look, here's another puzzle piece. This is the adaptation station. And an adaptation is a physical characteristic that allows a plant or an animal to thrive in their habitat. And thriving doesn't mean they just get by. Thriving means they do really, really well. For example, do you have a thumb? I thought so, I do too. Now imagine if we did not have thumbs and I brought in a huge, large pizza. Would we be able to eat the pizza very quickly? Probably not, but since we do have thumbs, we can eat the pizza very, very fast. Now, you guys learned a lot about mangroves when you came out in 1st and 3rd grade, right? You guys should be mangrove experts. Can any of you think of 2 or 3 adaptations of our mangroves here in the Indian River Lagoon? Did you think about the prop roots that the red mangroves have, or maybe those pneumatophores that stick up out of the ground for the black mangroves, all these roots that allow the plants to get the oxygen that they need right out of the air? Or maybe you thought about that famous black mangrove leaf that actually is able to sweat salt when it has too much. All of those are adaptations. They are physical changes that allow these plants to thrive in their habitat. Remember, that means they don't just get by, they do very, very well. Now, at this station, you will get to play 2 games. One of them is mystery crabs, and you will get to be a crab detective. We are going to explore 6 different crabs that live here in our Indian River Lagoon, that live on the mangrove trees and also live in the detritus that is below the mangroves. We will give you clues to all of these different adaptations that the crabs have to help them, what was that? Thrive, that's right, that help them thrive here in the Indian River Lagoon habitat. Now, we will also get to play a game called Fill the Bill. And with the Fill the Bill game, we will get to explore how all of these different birds have different bills that allow them to thrive in their habitat, that allow them to eat certain foods that other birds just cannot eat because their bill has not adapted to eat a certain food. If you can remember how to define adaptation, remember that's a physical change that allows these animals and plants to thrive in their habitat. You will be a star at the adaptation station.
All right. The next part of your Lagoon Days station, this will be the lagoon web, another part of that interconnections that we talk about all day long. Now at this station, you're going to learn the difference between a food chain and a food web. Do you guys already know what the difference is? Well, a food chain is when one organism gains its energy from another organism. There's a start to that chain and an end to the chain. Now, do you know what makes up a food web? That's right. A lot of interconnecting food chains. There's really no start and there's really no end to it. At this station, everybody, including teachers and chaperones, as well as the students, are going to get an apron. And you're all going to play important roles in the lagoon web. And I'm a red mangrove tree. And in your pocket, you're going to have some energy chips. They look like poker chips, but these are going to be the energy that you either gain throughout our activity or that you use throughout our activity. So I'm going to have Miss Sarah and Miss Heather help us to do a very short scenario for this station. We're going to start with the sun. And as you know, producers gain energy from the sun. So I'm a red mangrove tree and I'm going to gain 10 energy units from the sun. That's right, 10 units. Wow. Now the colors, they don't really have any significance. They're just all different colors. They each represent 1 energy unit. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to give the sun its energy back. And now I'm going to add the 10 energy units to my energy bag. All right. Now the next part of the scenario is a red mangrove tree crab that we learned about at the mystery crab station at the adaptation station needs its energy, and it eats living mangrove leaves. So a mangrove tree crab is going to gain 5 energy units from the red mangrove tree.
Oh,
so I'm going to give 5 units to Miss Sarah, who is the mangrove tree crab. Next part of the scenario is Miss Heather is a mangrove snapper, and she's swimming through those roots of the red mangrove trees. She's hungry. And as the mangrove tree crab goes up and down those mangrove roots, falls into the water. And that mangrove snapper is so quick, it grabs the mangrove tree crab and it's going to gain 5 units of energy. So she's going to take that energy and add it to her energy. So throughout this activity, you're going to see lots of different interactions and different interconnections between the different plants and animals in and around the Indian River Lagoon. So remember, food chain, food web, and interconnections.
We're back at another interconnected puzzle piece. This is the Benthic Ecology Station. I bet you're wondering, what is Benthic Ecology? Well, anytime you see a word that ends in O-G-Y, that means study of. Ecos is the Greek word for house. So we will be studying the habitat here in the bottom of the Indian River Lagoon. Benthos means bottom. Now, at this station, we actually get to be scientists and go out into the lagoon and use scientific equipment to explore the bottom of our Indian River Lagoon. Now, before we do that, it's very important that we follow some very basic rules. First, make sure that you still have on your closed-toed, closed-backed shoes. Second, we are only going to be going into the water up to our knees. And third, it's very important that we all do the stingray shuffle. Now let me show you what that looks like. Basically, it's like you're roller skating. You're just going to slide your feet along the bottom of the lagoon and make sure that you're constantly knocking on the door of all of the animals' home to let them know that you're on your way and that there's a big fourth grader coming. Here is some of the scientific equipment that we are going to be using when we get in the Indian River Lagoon. First, everybody has to wear a glove. And that is to protect ourselves when we're out there in the lagoon because many of the animals are very sharp and we don't want anybody to get cut. Next, one of the people in your group will be a creature collector holder. We're gonna have Miss Heather be the creature collector holder. Another one will get to hold the sieve. This is a sieve and we'll have Miss Rosemary be our sifter. And the other one will get to use the core. This is a core. And when we're out there in the lagoon, it's very important that we don't use this as a shovel. We don't want to harm the seagrass beds by jabbing it in on the side and digging along the bottom of the lagoon. What we want to do is to very carefully put the core in the bottom of the lagoon straight up and down, turn it, go into the bottom of the lagoon just a couple inches because that's where most of the animals live. And then very carefully, you're going to take your gloved hand, cock the core to the side, follow the core all the way down to the bottom of the lagoon, dig into the bottom just below the core, and then empty out what you collected into the sieve. Now, when we're in the lagoon, we're going to want the top of the sieve to be at the very top of the water. And that is so that we don't lose any of our sample. Miss Rosemary is going to demonstrate how we pan for animals. We're going to shake the sieve left to right, front to back. And then Miss Heather, with her gloved hand, can very carefully sift through these animals and pick them up. Now this container will also be filled up at least halfway with water so that the animals can continue to breathe and get the oxygen that they need even in our container. When we're done, we're all going to come back up to this table and explore what we collected. Okay, everybody, let's see how it really works. Follow me. This spot looks pretty muddy. All right, Benthic team. Now remember, first, we're gonna have one of our creature collector fill up her container halfway with water. Okay, then your corer will carefully insert the core straight up and down into the bottom of the lagoon. Turn it around a couple of times. Cock the core to the side, follow it down with your gloved hand. Find the bottom of the core in the lagoon. Remove your gloved hand. Check out that Tootsie Roll that I found at the bottom of the lagoon. Now your sifter will place the sieve in the water so that the top is still slightly out of the water. Shake it back and forth, left and right.
Oh, I think we found some good stuff, some good organisms.
Ah. We have some worm tubes, snail shells. Another activity that you can do when you come out here to the Benthic station is to explore the oyster condominiums, or also known as oyster reef. I have one right here below my feet. Now it's very important when we pick these up that we pick them up with our gloved hands because they are very, very sharp. Wow, look at all of these animals that make this oyster condo their habitat. We have a little hermit crab, or yes, he's a little hermit crab. Let's get a little closer. You can see his little legs coming out of that bruised Nassau shell. That's called a McLaughlin's hermit. He's the most common hermit crab here in the Indian River Lagoon. We also have lots of calcareous worm tubes. Now there actually are worms that are living inside of these very, very hard calcium tubes. See what's on the other side, Miss Heather. Ah, one of my favorites. We have a little mud crab lodged way inside of those two oysters. Can you see his mouth parts moving? What an amazing habitat the oyster reefs are. We hope you find many things on your oyster reefs when you come out here to the ELC.
All right, another favorite station of everybody's is the Seining station, because you get to go in the Indian River Lagoon again. At the Seining station, we're going to study the importance of the seagrasses, which are the only flowering plant in marine environments, and they provide a very important habitat to the organisms in the Indian River Lagoon. Again, we're going to be learning about the interconnections between the organisms in the lagoon and the seagrasses, and also the sun, because remember, seagrasses are producers. They get their energy from the sun, so we need to have clean, healthy water and clear so that the sunlight can get to the seagrasses to provide that energy. In Florida, there are 7 different types of seagrasses. And guess how many of those 7 are found here in our Indian River Lagoon? How many? Did you guess all 7? Then you're correct. We're very fortunate to have all 7 Florida seagrasses right here in our own Indian River Lagoon. Again, at this station, you're going to be doing the stingray shuffle. Remember, sliding your feet. This station you get to get a little bit wetter, but you can't get past your belly button in the water. So no going past your belly button in the water. Once you're here at the station, your instructor will go over all the safety rules again, because remember, safety is very important at these stations. So a seine net is a large net that's pulled by 2 people through the seagrasses as they're shuffling their feet, and there's someone behind them, again, with a collection container to collect those organisms once they pull it up out of the seagrasses. So if you want to come along, Miss Heather and Miss Sarah and I are going to go seining in the lagoon. So come on. All right, as you see, Miss Heather and Miss Sarah are out in the Indian River Lagoon. They stingray shuffled out there, and they have the seine net stretched out between the 2 of them. There are floats on the top, and at the bottom it has weights that are going to go through the seagrasses. Now watch how the ladies hold the poles. The top pole is behind them at an angle, and the bottom of the pole is in front of them, but off the ground slightly because they don't want to dig it into the seagrasses. They're going to shuffle their feet and come towards us. And if you're in their group, you're going to be behind them so that you don't scare any of the organisms out of the way. So they're going to do it for about a count of at least 30. Don't be too anxious here. And then when they're ready, they're going to talk to each other, so they're going to pull it up. They're going to keep some of it in the water so that it doesn't just fly up. And then very carefully, you and anyone else in your group is going to start looking through the seine net for these organisms. A lot of times they're camouflaged. You'll find seahorses, pipefish. Here are some of the animals that we found earlier. We have some crabs and a snail. And when we pick up these animals, we don't use our hand, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So as you can see, they're lifting up their nets, their poles are out of the water, but they're not the ones collecting the animals because they don't want to drop those poles. So here we have some hermit crabs, and we don't touch the animals with our hand. We're going to use our container to carefully scoop up that animal. And we have a hermit crab living in here. And you always want to look through this algae and seagrasses. They're great shelter for these animals. They do like to hide and camouflage. So, oh, and here's another one. You can see that hermit crab in there.
So that wraps up the 6 stations that you'll be studying during your ELC Lagoon Days field trip. It's a lot of time spent outside, and it's a lot of time focusing on the Indian River Lagoon. But we do that because the Indian River Lagoon is the nation's most biodiverse estuary. And bio means life, diversity means different kinds. So there are more kinds of life here in this lagoon than any other estuary. And do you remember what an estuary is? A place where salt and fresh water mix together. So in this very special ecosystem, we have all kinds of life that is interconnected and creates this healthy habitat. When you come to the ELC, be prepared. You're going to be outside all day long. Have on the proper footwear. Remember, no Crocs, no flip-flops, none of those flimsy water shoes. Old sneakers will work the best. Wear clothing that you wouldn't be upset if it got dirty, because as you can see, you'll probably get a little bit dirty and you'll certainly get wet, but that's all part of the fun. The night before, get a really good night's sleep, and the day of, eat a really good breakfast. Miss Rosemary already talked about how to pack a proper lunch for that challenge that we have, that waste-free lunch contest. So you know how to pack a lunch as well? You know what you're going to do. Teachers, please be sure and go to the website and read that teacher packet. If you have any questions or concerns, all of our contact information can also be found on that website. In the meantime, remember your theme for the day? Interconnections. It's how everything, all of those pieces of the Indian River Lagoon fit together just like a jigsaw. And get ready to have fun. We'll see you when you get here.